Can you guess what the biggest hurdle for people, including us, is when trying to prepare for their RV life? Okay, got that right. Jess is roasting me from the bedroom. If you find yourself drawn to the RV life, but you're unsure how to financially prepare for it, I know how you feel. When we started thinking this was a possibility for us, finances was a big topic, and to be honest, it was something that caused a lot of arguments for us. So today, I want to walk you through how you too can start on the road as a full-time RVer. Before looking for your other jobs, let's take a look at what I would consider the prep work of everything. You need to first assess your current financial state, including how much debt you have, including student loans, auto loans. I'm excluding mortgages in this conversation just because I'm not a professional and I would get some advice from your current financial advisor. The main point here is you want to start with as little payments as possible, which is ultimately going to allow you to be on the road more often and travel more frequently. Next, you need to focus on one major decision. What type of RV setup do you want? Do you prefer the van life, which will give you more access to BLM lands and be able to camp outside National Park? Or do you prefer a more spacious rig like this one that allows you more space to live, but you're gonna be restricted on where you can go? You're gonna be restricted to more of campgrounds and RV resorts, and you can boondock as well, but you will also have to commute to the national parks. Another pro to the van life is the barrier to entry. A nice decked out van might cost you $70,000, $80,000, even $90,000, which is a large summable amount of money. But when you consider a fifth wheel truck setup or don't even get me started on the Class A's, because that can just be an absurd amount of money, even double, triple cost of what we even paid for. And plus, some of the people that I know and even follow on social media are decking out their own van custom build to save on the labor cost, which personally I think is badass. Once you know what style of travel fits you best, it's now time to add up the cost of the big items of the group. For example, how much does that van cost and how much is it going to cost you on a monthly basis to sustain the van life? And once you figure out those two numbers, it's going to tell you two things. First of which, it's going to tell you how much of a deposit you may want to save up for that van. And secondly, it's going to tell you how much you want to save up for an emergency fund. Jess and I figured out that we wanted to have at least 30% down for the truck and at least 10 to 15% down on the camper, with an additional year-and-a-half savings in our savings account. You know, just in case things didn't work out or we had to take a major hit down the road. The main reason for the deposit amounts is it would put us in a favorable position monthly payment-wise for the RV and the truck. One second. Lemonade, apple juice. Yes, sir. Look at that color, that texture, that's a nice. Now that you have the number for those two questions, it's time to see how long it's going to take you to realistically achieve those financial goals. Let's say your numbers combined happen to be $30,000, which sounds like a lot of money up front, but once you break it down into a monthly savings goal and even a by pay cycle savings goal, it becomes a lot more manageable. And the main goal here is to set a duration or a timeline that you're comfortable with, or really frankly, that you're patient enough to wait until it's time to hit the road. You will need to factor in your current bills and decide on what needs to be cut out, which honestly was a tough one for Jess and I when we first got started. And from there, you can set a chart on how much you need to save each month until you hit your financial goal. And now it's time to start thinking about how you're gonna make money while you're on the road. And so if you just have it like that and don't need a job, just kindly exit out of this video, because this is not gonna serve any purpose to you. But for the rest of us, we need to figure out how we're gonna make money on the road while not dipping into that precious new shiny savings account. And the answer for most of us is finding a remote job or start some social media brand, which honestly doesn't pay the big bucks in the beginning. Also, there are a ton of people who find work seasonally at a national park or some local organization. But for me personally, I didn't want to have to worry about finding a new job or new work each time I moved around the country. I just needed a stable remote job that I could take anywhere. So hopefully by now you figured out how much everything's gonna cost you and how long it's gonna take you, and also how you somewhat started thinking about how you're gonna make money on the road. The final step in this process is the research. And please do not skip the research. This includes different memberships, how expensive different states can be, looking at you, California, and start thinking about the route that you want to take when you want to hit the road. Other expenses that can add up quickly is obviously the fuel it takes to travel around places. I think Jess and I spent close to $700 when we were moving from Charlotte, North Carolina, all the way down to Alamo, Texas, and then over to Big Bend, Texas, which propane to heat up your water will also need to be factored into your budget now, along with your new internet cost. We chose to go with Starlink, but there are other options. We just chose Starlink because the reviews said it was most reliable. It is a bit more expensive, it's about $150 a month, but with 2 remote jobs, we do need a solid, stable connection wherever we go. So Starlink provided that, and that's what we're gonna go with. Campground costs are also gonna eat into the budget, and even though we have a campground membership right now, we find ourselves using a supplemental app called HipCamp more than we do our actual membership. And the reason for that is, well, the spots at HipCamp just simply appeal to us better than the cramped up spots at Thousand Trails locations. Just make sure you do your research well in advance. Don't wait till last minute because it's gonna overwhelm you. And don't be afraid to read some full-time bloggers who do this as well, because they have some great insight and they're a great resource as well. And now that we're about 3 months into this, I find myself questioning if I would change things differently if we could start all over. And there's probably one thing that I would change out of the auto planning we did, and that's probably pay off either the camper or the truck first before starting. But honestly, I was just too impatient and wanted to hit the road. Needless to say, your journey to the RV life will look much different than ours did, and I cannot wait for you to come back and comment down below how it was and also the setup you went with. If you decide to follow this financial framework, which I do think you will be able to do it, it will put you in a great starting point to hit the road. And to recap on everything we just discussed, the first step would be to eliminate any debt that you have outside of your mortgage. Step 2, figure out which setup you want to go with, the van life or the RV life. Step 3, figure out how much that setup's going to cost you and decide on a budget that you're willing to spend on an RV or a van. Step 4, decide on the deposit amount and the time that's going to take you to achieve that goal. Number 5, decide how you're going to make a living on the road to avoid spending all your hard-earned savings. Step number 6, do your research on the life. Read a few blogs, watch a few YouTube videos, and really just prepare mentally for that life. And step number 7, follow through with the plan. There's going to be times where the idea loses its lust, and honestly, it happened to us a few times, but just know it's completely normal. It took Jess and I nearly 2 years to do this, well 4 if you include all the time it took us to pay off our debt. And during that time we quit on the plan once and we doubted it several other times. If we did it, I know you can too. And I hope this video provided you some inspiration, some solidification, some justification to take that next step. And if it did, feel free to give a subscribe to the channel and keep up with this crazy journey we call the RV life. See you in the next video. Peace, much love.